The next thing I'm going to do is configure my PerformancePoint service application. Now, one thing I'm going to do before I actually do the configuration in Central Admin is install a driver. And that driver is this one, the SQL Server 2008 AS80OMD10. You need to install this driver to enable PerformancePoint to connect to Power Pivot for SharePoint workbooks as analysis services cubes. The driver that is installed by SharePoint doesn't include that feature, so you'll need to add it. And actually, this is the 80OMD from the SQL Server 2008 R2 SP1 feature pack that you can get to through the Microsoft download site. So just go ahead and install this. It's very quick. And it tells us that there's a lower version of the product that's been detected in the system. We can see that the one we're installing is the R2 version. The one that SharePoint installed is the 2008 without the R2 version. So just click yes, walk through the wizard, accepting, next, install. And you might find that you're not able to actually connect to those workbooks until after you reboot the SharePoint server. So if you've installed this driver and you're still not able to connect to those workbooks, you might just restart your SharePoint server so that all the DLLs are loaded with the current versions. So with that little piece, let's go ahead and add the PerformancePoint service app. This is a very similar process to the reporting services app. The database server, again, this is where the service applications data is going to go. I'm going to shorten the name so it's easier for me to find in the database instance. Using Windows Authentication, because I'm logged in as the farm administrator, that's going to work fine. I don't have a failover database server. I'm going to use the BI app pool. This is a warning just telling me that I need to set that up, but I don't set that up now. I'll do that later, and I won't forget. Create once everything's in there. It's very fast, so that's created. And then I'm going to go into the PerformancePoint settings, and now I'll add the unattended service account. And that's the service BI. Again, in a production environment, you should not be using the farm service account for everything the way I am, but in a demo proof of concept environment, this is perfectly fine. Now click the OK button. All the other settings should be fine as installed. The trusted data sources and trusted content locations will trust everything in SharePoint, so you really won't have much to do there. So that's working fine. The only other thing I want to do is just verify that that service app that I installed is actually running on my server. And it's not, so that would have caused an error. So let me go ahead and start that. And that's it. So those are the steps to install and activate the PerformancePoint service. Within each of the site collections, don't forget to verify that that service application feature is actually turned on in your site collections. Because even though you've installed it into the farm, it may not actually be active for sites that you have, particularly sites that have already been created. So don't forget that step, but in terms of installation, we're complete at this point.